Yo, what is up, folks? Strategy here, taking a look at some of the Final Fantasy previews that we've had so far for MTG Final Fantasy, coming out in about a month's time now. All the commander stuff has been revealed. I'm not going to go through that here because I'm more focused on this channel, looking through constructor stuff, particularly at older formats, but also standard a bit. But yeah, we'll be looking at standard, pioneer, modern, and hey, if I miss something, then do let me know. But yeah, there will be a link in the description to the card image gallery, which I've got open here, and I've pulled out a few things specifically that I wanted to take a look at. Starting out in white, we have Cloud Midgar Mercenary. White for a 2/1, legendary creature, human soldier mercenary. There's some decent types, but when Cloud enters, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. That kind of like Stoneforge Mystic style effect. And then there's another ability. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So you get that kind of Stoneforge effect. If you've seen some of the other videos on the channel, I've played a ton of various different hammer combo builds in Pioneer. I've messed around with that a little bit in Modern. It's pretty cool. And there's like a ton of equipment stuff in the set at the point where we might have enough equipment to be good in Standard. There are some limitations. Typically, equipment's quite expensive mana-wise, and so like being efficient enough to get into Standard X is good. Is difficult. But hey, there's quite a lot of support floating around. But it's a nice one, absolutely for Pioneer, and hey, it's kind of cute for Modern. Means that you can like play a Stoneforge style effect in your human stack, even though you're not getting that uncounterable ability. Hey, it's still pretty cool to have, and the ability to like double triggers, pretty cool. Next up, kind of still on the equipment theme, we've got Machinist's Arsenal. It is 5 mana, which is like infinite for constructed, but has wanted to showcase something with a job select ability. So when it enters, create a 1/1 hero token attached to it. But the most important thing is that equipped creature gets +2/+2 for each artifact you control, and is an artificer. Is super expensive. There are some ways to cheat around elements of that, either putting it into play or kind of getting around that equip cost. But specifically, +2/+2 for each artifact you control is a ton. And so, hey, if you have any way to get this into play for free or discounted, or equip it with some discounts on it, then yeah. And over to blue, again, still on the equipment theme. One in the blue for Astrologians Planisphere. One in the blue. Again, job select, so make a hero equipped to it. Equipped creature is a wizard in addition to the types, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, whenever you draw your third card each turn, put up a +1 counter on this creature. Starts as a 1/1 for 2 mana, not bad, but remember that you can move this. Not great stats, but you can move this around, and then it starts growing pretty quickly. The fact these are counters and not just like the prowess kind of +1/+1, and that there are multiple ways to trigger it. Even though like, hey, 3 cards a turn is tough. People play like Tamio and Morning, like, oh yeah, okay. Even with you need to cast like a couple of cantrips to be able to get that ability, but you're getting like. If you're like drawing your card per turn, casting a Considerer and Ops, you're getting 2 counters, 3 counters. Gets pretty big pretty quickly. Is pretty cute. Dreams of Laguna. 1 in a blue instant, surveil 1 and then draw a card, but has flashback for 3 and a blue. We've seen loads of like Think Twice variants. We've got like Deluge, kind of stuff like that. The recent one like makes a clue. Surveil 1, if you draw a card. To not draw 2, but sometimes you want cards in your graveyard, and then flashback. It's just like a solid card advantage as well. Realm Sketching. 2 blue sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact, creature, or land. Not like a massive standout card. Clone effects we've got a load of. Be able to copy artifacts as well as creatures, like we've seen that before. Be able to copy land is something we don't see that often. Notably, I guess, you can't use this to copy something like Lotus Field, because when the copy enters the battlefield, you still have to sacrifice the land, so that doesn't work like that. There are other instances where you're like, okay, it's a cute clone effect. Being able to copy a land is pretty cool. Like, its failure rate is 4 mana ramp. Like, copy all your opponent's lands. If you've got utility lands or lands like Cloud Post, for example, things like that, then there's some pretty cute stuff you can do. So it's like, this is a cool card. Let's add this to the list here. Valkyrie Aerial Unit, 5 blue, artifact creature construct for a 5/4 with flying, but it has affinity for artifacts. We've got like a pile of new affinity stuff over the last couple of sets, and this fits in very nicely. 5/4 as a flyer is huge, and then also has even more upside. When it enters, you get to surveil 2 as well, in particular with cards like Synthesizer, when you're like, if you play a artifact with mana value 3 or greater, make a Karn construct. Hey, this lets you like, okay, here's one. It flies, make my construct, Surveil 2, go find another card that'll trigger it. Really, really good. Into black, and maybe one of the most exciting cards, kind of, but kind of not. It's like lost its shine a little bit in recent years, but Dark Confident, 1 and a black for a 2/1. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, and you lose life equal to its mana value. Mono black aggro in standards. There's a lot of possibilities for some in Pioneer, but one of the places I'm most excited for is in kind of like a wizard style deck. As another wizard that gets you potentially a pile of cards. But you do have to be careful, especially in standard where like the power level of the aggro decks can be a little more awkward. You can die very quickly. You can die very quickly, but also the curves go up a bit higher than they do in older formats, so the power level cards is lower. The damage will rack up. The damage racks up and you might die. That's it. That's the line. But I'm very excited to play this, both in kind of like black green mid-range decks in Pioneer, and also in kind of like the wizard style stuff. And hey, there are some other mono black aggro cards in standard at the moment. Tricky to get around, tricky to like the demon stuff's so powerful with Alex. Who's to say? Next up, Kane Traitorous Dragoon. 2 and a black for a 2/4 legendary human knight. Pretty like decent stats. Dodges a decent amount of removal, but has the jump ability, so during your turn it gets flying, and then when it deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of Kane. If they do, draw that many cards, create that many tapped treasure tokens, and lose that much life. That many being the amount of damage it does. If you have a way to buff it, that's cool, but being able to kind of like, hey, I'm going to play this. If you don't interact with it, I'm going to attack with it with flying. It's going to hit you. I'm going to draw 2 cards. I'm going to make 2 treasures. I lose a couple of life, but then I have, and bear in mind you don't get to use the treasure then to tap, so you don't get to use them to the next turn. But it's like, okay, I'm going to like jump myself ahead, get some mana, some cards, and then have like a bunch more stuff to present next turn. You're going from like, I'm going to play this on turn 3, you're going to untap with it on turn 4, play a land, attack, get 2 treasures, and then the next turn you're going to have access to 7 mana, and have a pile more cards. So it's kind of cool. Definitely on the standard end of things. I'm not going to see it play any older formats, but it's cute. Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier, 2 and a black, 3/3. I'm not going to showcase like every mythic for the case of being a mythic, but whenever it enters attacks, you may sacrifice another creature if you do draw a card. Is a pretty powerful ability, especially if you have kind of like the aristocrat style stuff going on, or things like not actual Doom Traveler, but like creatures that replace themselves when they die and that kind of thing. And then it also has more text. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. If this is the 4th time this ability is resolved this turn, transform Sephiroth. 4 times is a lot. You need to have realistically either, well, if there's a wrath effect, then this gets wrathed away as well, bear in mind. So you need some kind of like sacrifice outlet to really get this going. Maybe that's Priest of the Forgotten Gods and Pioneer, something like that. Even then, that's 2. You need to find some more as well. But hey, if you flip it, you get Sephiroth, One-Winged Angel, 5/5 with flying. When it transforms into Sephiroth, you get an emblem with that. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life ability. And when it attacks, you sacrifice a pile of creatures to draw a pile of cards. Is very, very powerful if you get to flip it. Is a little hard. Is very much like build around, hard to take advantage of, but it's a very cool card. Shambling Sieth. 2 and a black for a 3/3, enters tapped. Whenever you cast it on creature spell, you can pay black. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. This is like a really weird engine card. It doesn't look like it's doing much on the face of it, but if you have like effects where you're discarding cards to activate abilities, or for example, the kind of like Cathartic Reunion, Faithless Looting, any of those like 2 mana, 3 mana, 1 mana, 2 mana red spells that require you to discard cards. This is a way to kind of like be like, hey, I'm going to pay an extra black mana, and I'm going to be able to keep an extra card each time I do that. The kind of squee on a budget, but potentially squee multiple times a turn, depending on the format. Is a cool one. I just want to make a note of that. Into red, we have Freya Crescent. Red for a 1/1. Rat Knight. During your turn, Freya has flying, which is cool because it plays into the equipment theme, and is a mana creature for that theme as well. Tap to add for red, and spend this mana only to cast the equipment spell or activate an equipment ability. It's like very, very specific, but mana creatures are really, really good, and this one gets evasion when you can then equip to it, which is super, super handy. I talked about a bit earlier about playing some kind of equipment deck where you've got like a legendary theme going on to take advantage of Mox Amber and some of the older formats. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Laughing Mad, another one of the discard kind of spells I mentioned with that last card. 2 and a red, additional cost to cast it, discard a card, and you draw 2 cards. You're paying like 2 and a red, you're going to discard a card and draw 2 cards, but then you cast it, you can pay black, return that other card back, then discard that cast, and then the next time when you flash it back, you get to do it again, and all of a sudden you're up a couple of extra cards when you wouldn't be otherwise. Which is pretty cool, pretty cool. In this case, 3 mana is a lot, but this effect at instant speed is pretty powerful. We've had like sorcery speed versions of the 3 mana with flashback, discard and draw 2 effects. But this one being instant speed is pretty nice, especially if you're trying to do some kind of like weird reanimator type shenanigans stuff. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Into green, and Bart's and a Boko. 3 green. I'm sorry if I butchered any of the pronunciations. I have played some Final Fantasy, not tons and tons and tons. I'm not a Stalwart fan. Yeah. If I mess the names up, I apologize. Bart's a Boko. Boko. Looks like Boko. So 3 green for 4/3, but has affinity for birds. And there's a bit of a bird sub-theme going on here. And we've been traumatized a little with Nadu recently, but hey, birds can be cool. So affinity for birds, and when Bart's and Boko enters, each other bird you control does damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So potentially, like if you have like a bird on 1, you have a bird on 2, you can play this on turn 3, shoot something for 3. Pretty nice, pretty nice. But then there's some other bird synergies you can take advantage of, a couple of which we'll kind of get to, I think. Zara's Kokobo. Okay, this is a 1 mana bird, green for a 0/1, but whenever a land you control enters, it gets a counter. Pretty nice because you get to like their counters. It's not like some kind of like Stepplinks effect where they disappear after. Stepplinks is the right card I was thinking of. You get to keep the counters around, they stick on there. Obviously, in older formats, you have fetch lands. However, like playing 1 mana 0/1s is not typically great in those formats. But hey, cute. Tifa Lockhart, kind of diverting from the bird theme for a moment. 1 and a green for a 1/2 with trample. Whenever a land you control enters, double Tifa's power until end of turn. And obviously, that can happen as many times as you can have lands into the battlefield. Is a legendary creature, human monk. I've included this so. If you play 1 land, it becomes a 2/2. 2 lands becomes a 4/4. 3 lands becomes an 8/8. 4 lands becomes a 16. 16's a lot. 4 lands is pretty tough. However, and in Standard and potentially Pioneer as well, it's pretty hard to get loads and loads of triggers here without putting in some extreme effort. However, I've played a ton maybe years ago at this point, of Green White Company in Modern. And things like Knight of the Reliquary. If you have this on turn 2, Knight of the Reliquary on turn 3, or if you get to untap with this and Knight of the Reliquary, is basically what I'm saying. Maybe you Coco into both of them. You can play a fetch land, sacrifice that fetch land, sacrifice the land you find with Knight of the Reliquary, to find another fetch land, sacrifice that fetch land, and all of a sudden you've got those 4 triggers. Tifas are coming across the field for 16 points of damage. With some other land shenanigans, maybe you make that a lot more. Maybe you give that. She's already got the fact that she's got trample built in is very repellent. It's a lot of work to pick up, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Town Greeter, 1 and a green for 1/1, enters, mill 4 cards, land from among them into your hand. If it's a town, which is a new kind of land subtype, you gain 2 life, which is cute. Primarily, this is a Satyr Wayfinder with a more relevant creature type, being a human, which is, hey, minor but neat. And there are a couple of towns which we'll get to at the end as well. Traveling Chocobo. So I meant back to the birds. 2 and a green for 3/2. Look at the top card of your library at any time. Play lands and cast bird spells from the top of your library. Pretty cool, pretty cool. If a land or a bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So we talked about Bozo and Boko. That would then be able to shoot 2 creatures for damage equal to the number of birds you control. The land ability would go twice, 2 counters, and so on and so forth. We're not going to talk about Nadu. That card's banned in basically every format that you might want to play it in. You can play it in Legacy and Vintage. Yeah. Banned in Commander. And of course it is banned in Modern. But here, really, really cool card. And be able to play lands from the library, very powerful. And obviously if you're playing like a bird theme deck, it does a ton of stuff. Lands, independent of the bird stuff, is still like a pretty powerful card with the land abilities triggering twice. That would include things like Valak at the Molten Pinnacle. Is a 3/2. is like fairly weak to removal, but very cool card. Out of green, Emetzel's Unsundered. This is one of the first cards we saw from the set. 1 blue black for a 2/4 with Vigilance. When it enters or attacks, draw a card and discard a card, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform it. 14 is quite a lot. Glimpse the Unthinkable on turn 2, that's milling you for 10. Maybe you have a fetch land, maybe you have like a Tome Scour, that kind of thing. You can do it pretty early. And flip it, and when you flip it, you get a pretty good payoff. The downside is that it triggers on your upkeep, and so if you have a way to kind of like either cheat this into play on your opponent's end step, or protects it, hey, it's a lot of work, but you get a pretty cool payoff. A 6/6, and during your turn you can play cards from your graveyard, is incredible. Yeah. If a card or token can be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Anything that says play cards from your graveyard generally has this kind of line on it. It's still really powerful. Yeah, it's York's will for your graveyard for everything. It's pretty cool. And onto those lands. So I talked about towns a bit earlier. There are a couple of cards that matter about them. Adventurers Inn is a land that says when it enters, gain 2 life. That's for colorless, and it's a town. Is like a radiant fountain, but has that town type, which, hey, who knows, may be relevant more often than not. That card gets played a couple of times, and like we're like very not so more in the way that amulets kind of evolved. It's just not getting played as much anymore, as far as I'm aware. But hey, and occasionally the extra name means something. Like if Field of the Dead ever gets unbound. But the town stuff may matter depending on other cards they print in the set and other cards in the future that refer to the town subtype. Ishgard, Holy Sea. So there's a cycle of these, and these are enter the battlefield tapped lands that are towns. So for the Satyr Wayfinder effect, the human citizen version of that we saw earlier that gets towns back from the graveyard, can do these as well, and they each have a adventure sorcery. You can play the land later from exile, which is really cool. But that works both ways. You can play it as a land, and if you've got effects to pick it back up, or if you've like I said, the Satyr Wayfinder, like mill through it and pick it out of the graveyard and get to cast a sorcery. Super sweet. This one in particular, Faith and Grief. 3 white, return up to 2 target artifact cards or enchantment cards from your graveyard to your hand. Not like super powerful, but like it is, depending on how you see it and look at it, like reasonably free to put on a tap line in your deck if you're playing into the white theme. And a pretty, it's a powerful effect in terms of getting to artifacts and enchantments. It's just expensive, right? That's the downside. The blue one here, Jador Aristocratic Capital. 4 blue. Target opponent mills half their library rounded down. Sounds very good, except it's 6 mana, so it happens very late in the game. If you're playing a mill deck, and so the other thing is that it's guaranteed to not mill your opponent out of cards entirely. It does, however, combo entirely with Fraying Sanity. Fraying Sanity, a 3-mana enchantment that says at the end of each turn, whoever it's a curse, whoever it's enchanted to mills cards equal to the number of cards they milled. So if they mill half their library, they will mill the other half. Pretty cool. And then yeah, again on a land there. Zanarkand, Ancient Metropolis is the green version. We've not had all of these spoiled yet, so hey, keep your eyes out. Lasting Faith, so 4 green, create a 1/1 colorless hero token, and then put a counter on it for each land you control. So you're looking at, say you're casting it on turn 6 with 6 mana, and you play the land each turn. Cool, you get a 7/7. Not super powerful, but like, alright, neat. It's upside. It's a weird one to like rare lands. The effects are not like the effects are not, apart from like, the mill one is a really cool effect, but like still not like giga pushed is the thing about it, I guess I would say. Starting town. This one's pretty interesting. Again, another town. It enters tapped unless it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. But then is like, well, taps for colors and has the pale life, add 1 mana of any color ability. Mana Confluence, City of Brass, we're familiar with these. Those do not have an option to tap for colorless. And so that's pretty cool. Has some really nice upside. But again, untapped on the first, second, or third turns of the game. If you're trying to play some like multicolor aggro deck, this is exactly what you want in a lot of situations. But hey, if you're later on in the game, it will be worse. So pretty interesting one. That is the last card that I wanted to talk about today. Loads of Final Fantasy spoilers. still to come and kind of on the way. And by the time this video comes out, there might be a few more things. So if you see anything that you're like, hey, you've not talked about this, then let me know in the comments, and I'll once the full set's out, I will do like a proper breakdown of like my top cards in the set. But these are the things that I'm the most excited about that I've seen so far. There's also plenty of Commander stuff that is like neat, cool, but I'm not focused on for this video. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do like, subscribe, share it around. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out a ton. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace out.